Transmedia, just a tea.
Professor Lindsey Carey.
Yep.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Okay. So I'm a senior lecturer at Glasgow Caledonian University, and I work within the Department of Fashion, Marketing and Retailing in the Business School. And I'm also the programme leader for the Master in Research Methods, which is a programme that students take to access doctoral studies, but also PhD students who are already pursuing doctoral studies do it to enhance their knowledge in terms of methodologies.
And what are you doing here today in Caledonian University?
Today in Caledonian University, I've come to give a flavour of the type of research or workshops that we do with our own PhD students, and to try and get them to think about something that's very important in the UK research landscape, which is impact and the impact of research, and that's what I've come to present.
How to develop your impact in research?
Yes.
How to do that?
You're asking.
You can give us a tip or some tips or some.
So basically, the thing about impact in research is to start to think about it at the beginning of your research and not leave it to the end and think, right, now I've done my research, where can I put this, or who's going to use this? Is to start to think about who would be interested in your research, how they could possibly use it, and also to think about yourself and your research as a brand, and to try and market it much more consciously in terms of making people aware of it, but also how they could possibly use it. So it's very important now in terms of research funding to think about where your research can be used, and that makes it important for society, but also it makes it important for funding for the research, so therefore for institutions to get people who understand impact and who are able to use it in the proper way. So it's really about trying to build that brand.
And actually, we are doing that well, or we need to improve in the way that we manage that kind of brand?
I think everybody needs to think about it. Some people do it very well, and other areas not so well. And I think it's something that's developing more. The importance of it is developing more. So not only do you have to have some academic rigour and academic standing, you now have to have standing in society, and also in terms of how your research is being used. And I think there's always improvements that can be made in that. It's not just it's something that you should develop as your career progresses. And sometimes you have part of your research that's related, that can be very good for impact, and other parts of the research that are not so easy to do impact. But you have to think about it in terms of each individual part of your research and how each one can impact in some way in society as a whole.
Transmedia, just a tea. Esteban Galán.
We are speaking with Professor Lindsey Carey, and the Professor Lindsey Carey manages a master about research methods. How important is the method for a researcher?
Two things. First of all, the programme is very important that I manage, because often, number one, students have not enough confidence to be able to go straight into doctoral study. And this programme means that for a year, You can practice your writing for a start, but also you get knowledge about lots of different research methods. So not only the one that you're interested in and that you want to use, but also the wider aspect of research methodologies. And it just makes you aware at the end of the master's program that there are lots and lots of different areas you can choose or roads you can go down in terms of your methodology, and it doesn't keep you to just one area. It keeps you to, you can open it up, and your knowledge is much wider, because at the end of the day, what is doctoral study? It's really about making you better researchers. And the knowledge that you get in one, it's better to have a wider knowledge rather than a narrow knowledge. So methodologies are hugely important. And the second thing I would say is when you're doing your actual doctoral study is to think about what methodologies you can use in terms of answering your objective. And I always say to my students, it's not the amount of different methodologies you use that's important, it's using the right one. So using the right one is better than using 10 wrong ones. Mm-hmm. So that's... that's how important methodology is.
Well, we are finishing that really interesting interview, and I would like to ask you about your lecture about consumer behavior. It's changing this area because of big data.
Big data is obviously a big issue in terms of the importance of social media now in research in that area, in consumer behaviour. I think in any area that you work in, it's always keeping up with the changes that are happening, and big data is obviously something that's particular to social media, I would say. And actually, one of the case studies that we use in the research methods is related to how important Twitter was for the Olympics in London, and how they've analysed that, and that was a really important case study that's been put forward, in that context. So what I would say is any area you're working in is not static. Mm-hmm. Everything is always moving forward. But social media and big data is just the current trend, and the secret is to be ahead of that and to know what the next trend is. So I'm not going to divulge that secret here.
And for that, it's very important to have references, to have a master. Which person will you choose as a master, as a reference in your career? As a researcher,
Oh dear, that's a difficult question.
I
know. I think it's not so much to do with who would I choose as a mentor, somebody that I've learned from lots of different people. But what I would say is to look at the way that people conduct their research or their research careers. Mm-hmm. And I think I've become much more aware of being comfortable with what you do and not always striving to do what other people are doing, and to build your career at your own pace, within your own life, mm-hmm. Within your own capabilities, and not to try and always strive to do something that is maybe out of reach, and to take your time, to do it one step at a time, and not try and take 3 steps at a time.
Yeah. And a book to learn that kind of things that you choose as a...
Well, I'm going to refer to what my esteemed colleague has just done in terms of the mindfulness, because the book that was suggested, which she can remind me of the title of, it's called Mindfulness, and by
Finding Peace in a Frantic World.
Finding Peace in a Frantic World, because I really think that it links with my own worldview, philosophy, and also the way that I'm approaching my career now, and taking it much more slowly, and yet I find having much more impact, actually.
Thank you very much. I would like for finishing to ask you a present film.
A film?
A film, yeah.
Um,
Not the best, some film that it has been special for you in one moment.
my favourite film...
The truth, please.
But yes, the truth is, actually, I think I can relate it to what I'm about to say and to research, was Dirty Dancing. That is my favourite film of all time.
My wife. No.
And what I can say is, because I suppose it talks about emotional awakening, and I feel that it also links to what I would say in terms of the development of my career as well, that I'm now much more into my awakening of a much more mindful way of conducting my professional life and my career. And it's just a film that I'm never tired of watching. I just love the emotions that it gives me. So, and that's what you want to do in your research as well. If you can find that emotional connection with your research, that's you've won something.
Professor Lindsey Carey, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Really nice. Thank you.
Transmedia, just a tea.